More than 300 million of Muslims around the world call themselves Shia. What does it mean to be Shia? How do they think? How do they live? And much more in the Shia podcast. Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is the Shia podcast on Shia Islam. I am Sayyid Razi, your host. This is the first episode of the Shia Studies podcast series. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the first episode. As you, the dear audience, know, the religion of Islam has been divided into two major branches, Sunnism and Shiism. Each of these branches, with all of common principles that they have their specific identity. In different series of podcasts, we will talk about perspectives and history of Shiism, also ethic and lifestyle in the viewpoint of Shiism, and much more. In this series of podcasts, we will, inshallah, going to introduce and explain the main Islamic issues in perspective of Shiism, because Shiism is an important aspect of the Islamic tradition. The purpose of this series is to present Shiism as it has been and as it is in both its doctrinal and historical aspects. Now, in this series, in the name of Know the Shiite, we are going to talk about introducing and history of Shiism. The main reference that we have used for this part is the book of Shiite Islam by one of the greatest Islamic scholars, Sayyid Muhammad Hussein Tabatabai, known as Allame Tabatabai. This book originally is written in Persian language, but fortunately has translated in English by one of his prominent students, Professor Sayyid Hussein Nasr. He is one of the most prominent Shiite researchers that has lots of books and articles of introducing Shiism. This book, according to the translator, has been a textbook in some universities in the US in the subject of Shiite studies. And of course, this book is being used now in the seminary. However, this book, despite being brief, is one of the best sources of introducing Shiism, either because of content and author. Okay, let's go to talk about the book. This book is comprised of three parts. The first part, in the name of historical background of Shiism, deals with the history of the Shiism, especially in the early centuries of Islam. The main topics that the author going to talk about them are origin of Shiism, also the reason that Muslims society has been divided into two parts, the issue of succession of the Prophet and the disagreement that happened in that issue. The other topic is rule, and finally it talks about Shiism branches. The second part, with the title Shiite Religious Thought, talks about the meaning of thoughts, and also the cognitive resources. These cognitive resources briefly are religious reasons like the Quran and narrations of the Prophet and infallible Imams, rational and intellectual reasons, and finally, spiritual comprehension like mysticism. In this part, in three separate chapter, the author points to these three uh, references of religious thought. And finally, part three that appellate Islamic beliefs from the Shiite point of view has mentioned two main beliefs of Shiism: the beliefs of God's essence and attributes, the notion of prophethood, the features of prophet, the notion of imamate, and think like this. What you heard was the first episode of Know the Shiite. I hope was useful for you and you benefited from that. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about the origin of Shiism. Listeners, thank you for your time and joining me in this episode. Please send me any questions or feedback to the podcast email info at theshia.ir, and you can also contact me on theshia.ir in Instagram and theshia_ir on Twitter. Please subscribe my channel. You can always catch our previous episodes. To be informed about our episodes, please follow us on our social media pages. You can find them on our website www.theshia.ir. Please visit my website. You can see the text of the episode and probably some more information about the episode on the website. Thank you. We'll be back with another episode. Take care of yourselves. Pray for each other. Goodbye.